She just got back from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival where she did a run of her wonderful show, Keeping My Kidneys. Please welcome Mindy Raf.
I think almost every Jewish person thinks that their mother's matzo ball soup is the best matzo ball soup, right? And you guys, my mother's matzo ball soup, no, it was the best. It was the best matzo ball soup. And there is no better Jewish nose morning than a matzo ball soup morning. The fresh dill mixed with like that sweet wine, subtle like leek herbal bouquet. I don't know what was in my mom's soup particularly. I can't remember if it was parsnips or turnips, but the smell, and there was a deschmaltzing, and I don't know her recipe exactly, because she altered her recipe from her mother, and then her mother altered that recipe from her mother, and so on and so on. And you know, my mom never wrote down her recipes. She just kind of flowed with it, like trial and error, yet it was specific. I don't know how she did it with no recipe, but her matzo ball soup, it tasted the same every single time. You wanted to write a poem about the broth. You wanted to pen an opera about the matzo balls, which were substantial enough to ball, but like matzah enough to soap up the broth. My mom's matzo ball soup, it's a celebration. It's a comfort. It's schmaltzy and it's secure. Now, I was 29 years old when I first attempted to make one of my mom's recipes, and it was for my boyfriend's birthday, and I was gonna make her sweet and sour turkey meatballs. It was exciting. She used to make them in a little fondue orange crock pot. And that year, my boyfriend's mother got us a crock pot for Christmas. So I was gonna make him the sweet and sour turkey meatballs. So I made the meatball part, and it went really well. It was basically like the Jewish, like Barefoot Contessa, like Jewier than the Barefoot Contessa. It's like the Barefoot Contessa, I don't know. And then I went to make the sauce, which was 12 ounces of jelly with 12 ounces of chili sauce. So I put the jelly in the crock pot. I'm spooning that in. It's going real flowy. And then I go to put in the chili sauce, and there's something wrong with the chili sauce bottle because it like doesn't just pour out. I have to like slow drip it in. I'm like, that's really weird, but whatever. It's bad packaging. So I take 10 minutes and I like slow drip this chili sauce into the crock pot, and then I let it cook for 5 to 6 hours. And then my boyfriend comes home, and I serve him a big bowl of this sweet and sour meatball, and I watch him proudly take the first bite. Now, we'd been together for 3 years at this point, and that night was the first night I saw my boyfriend cry. Tears rolling down his face as he spit it into our fancy paper towel napkins. And he was like trying to be nice. He was like, babe, it's really delicious. It's kind of hot. And I was like, yeah, I know, we should let it cool first. And he's like, no, it's like chili hot. And I was like, yeah, because I used 12 ounces of chili sauce. Duh. You don't know how to cook. So I didn't know that like chili sauce was different than Tabasco hot sauce. So I like slow dripped a whole bottle of Tabasco hot sauce into the meatballs. So oh my God, it's oy vey. So I blotted it with a paper towel, still too hot. Then I like power washed the meatballs. Still way too hot to eat. We had birthday cake for dinner. Later that night, out of habit, I went to call my mom to tell her what I did. Then I put the phone down and I just dumped the turkey meatballs into the trash. And it had been 3 months since I got home from Shiva with like a suitcase full of like, rugala and condolence cards. And that was the first night I realized I never cooked with my mom. I had planned to when I, turned an old age of like 30, we would figure things out. I would figure out like exactly how the chicken becomes cacciatore and what exactly was in her kugel that made it taste like magic but made my cousin Bethany's kugel taste like old feet. Names have been changed. After that, I just avoided Jewish cooking and Jewish food. I kind of like fast walked down the kosher food aisle at the grocery store. Like the Manischewitz label was like an ex-boyfriend. I still loved food. Like I really embraced my boyfriend's like Catholic Italian mother's Midwestern cooking. And then years later, I embraced my girlfriend's like Catholic Italian mother's Croatian cooking. But I had wanted nothing to do with Jewish cooking or Jewish food at all. Until last Rosh Hashanah, like right before the High Holy Days, I had this dream about my mom. You know those dreams where you wake up and you're still in it? And it was so visceral, I could smell her holy trinity of lavender soap and dill and Allure's Chanel perfume. And I heard her voice and she was like, Manzala, stop eating the goy food. Make my soup. So I contacted some family members and I wrote down everything I could remember. And I made her matzo ball soup and it was disgusting. It was like really oily, like chicken flavored water with like overcooked fibrous leeks and like really bland, way too soft, like matzah clumps. And then I made it again the next week and it was better. It was like more soup-like, but still really bad soup. And I think about every 2 weeks I tried to make her matzo ball soup. I went on this like crazy like journey of trying to emulate my mother's matzo ball soup, and I was obsessed. I was like, this year, like this week, I'm gonna get it right. And is it parsnips or turnips? Is it garlic or garlic salt? And I know I'm missing an ingredient. And how much water does she use? And one night my girlfriend came home, and I'm just wearing her pajama pants and a bra, and I've got like dill and schmaltz and I don't know matzah meal in my hair, and I'm like scrolling on a yellow legal pad, and I'm like, all soup and no play makes Mindy a dull girl. All soup and no play makes Mindy a dull Jew, a dull Jew, a dull Jew. And I'm like, tonight we're having soup again, like, ah. So we had soup again. And that night I knew it was good, and it was. I put turmeric in it and a little cumin, and I put a little sweet potato in the base broth. And you guys, it was delicious soup. But it wasn't my mom's soup. And I just started sobbing into my soup, which was necessary because it needed more salt. And I realized that night that it's never gonna be my mom's soup, that I will never taste my mom's soup again. And I mourned her soup that night, and her cheese blintzes, and her hot salami, and her sweet and sour turkey meatballs, and even that really weird like disco tuna ball that she made. And this Rosh Hashanah, I made the soup again, but not with the goal of recreating the soup, because even if my mom were alive today and we cooked the soup together and I diligently wrote down all the ingredients and I made it, it still was not going to be my mom's soup, because she altered the recipe from her mom, and her mom altered the recipe from her mom, and I was altering the recipe from my mom, and this was my soup. And this January will be 10 years of not having my mother's matzo ball soup. And, grief, you miss someone wholly, but you miss them little bits at a time. You miss all of the things that they brought to life. It's cellular. It's transient, it's dormant, it's electric, it's raw, it's rough. It's a disaster when you're making food and when you're grieving. It's like a really good meal, grief. Parts of it just kind of stay with you. They don't leave you, in good or bad. It can be a total disaster, like a terrible schmaltzy, leek-filled broth, or a comfort something uniquely yours and unexpected with turmeric and cumin and sweet potato. And so this year I made my mother's matzo ball soup. And you guys, a lot of Jews think their mother's matzo ball soup is the best soup. But my matzo ball soup, well, our matzo ball soup, it's the fucking best. Thank you.
Yum's the word